Hey everybody, this is Harvey Sonny Wasserman with the 255th Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition Zoom call in the middle of a fascist takeover of the United States and some very cold weather in Minnesota, where we're going to get some reports as well as from Dr. Melissa Bird in Oregon. We're expecting a U.S. Representative Ro Khanna from California to get us where we need to go in terms of what's happening in Washington. We want to start in the second hour, by the way. We are going to go 2 hours at least today. In the second hour, we're going to be talking about the attempted restart of the Palisades nuclear plant in Michigan. And we have very, very serious breaking news, which we think could, in fact, stop the restart of this nuclear plant, which would be of global impact. So those of you who are at all interested in energy or in continuing to live on this planet, you may want to tune in with us. It'll be a deep dive in the second hour. That'll be at 6 o'clock Eastern time. And we have to guide us through the great Carl Grossman, one of the godfathers of the safe energy movement on Long Island there, to talk to us about that. So the second hour, deep dive on energy, which could be actually a historical landmark given the information that we're going to be discussing. In this first hour, again, we're anticipating the arrival of U.S. Representative Ro Khanna of California. We're starting with about 73 people, and we're going to go right away to the northern reaches of Minnesota in St. Cloud with Hetty Tripp, who's been filling us in with herself and people in Minneapolis about the ICE attack on our own civil rights and civil liberties. I do want to say, by the way, that I have not seen, but I've seen enough of the documentary or mockumentary on the First Lady, whatever her name is. And I have to say that, all these years we've thought of her kind of as an enigma. She ain't no enigma, man. There's no there there. Anyway, I will not be seeing that movie, but I've been reading the reviews. And Hetty Tripp, you've been reviewing the situation now in Minnesota. You are in St. Cloud. You've got family in Minneapolis. We've gone through another week of this fascist occupation of our own city here. What can you tell us?
Well, I'm going to bring up just two issues, and then I have invited our senator from St. Cloud, Eric Putnam, and he said he's going to come in about half an hour.
Okay.
So when he comes on, I'm sure you can bring him in. But ICE agents remain violent, and they are detaining Minnesotans, especially Minnesotans of color. They remain violent here. This is Lake Bedé-Makaska. It used to be Lake Calhoun. It was changed to its original name. And these are folks that put out SOS there. Those are all people. And yeah, we need support to get ICE out. And so I encourage everyone to rally and to speak out. We are 10,000 lakes, and this is important in terms of the next slide. And around each of the major lakes are bike trails that are cleared of ice and snow regularly. And there is a rapidly growing force in Minneapolis's supermassive bike community, utilizing the city with one of the top biking infrastructures in the country. This is really important in terms of the support that we had. So this was on Saturday, the 31st. It was actually warm at about 10 to 18 degrees.
I'm surprised to see people in Minnesota wearing coats when it's 10 degrees out.
Well, right. And so Alex Preddy was part of a bike club, and numerous bike clubs coalesced together to do an 8-mile run. But what's coming out of this is the formation of bike patrols in neighborhoods. So this was about 6,000 to 10,000 bikes.
Wow.
They are massive. They're amazing. So An agency actually donated bike bags that they're filling with medical supplies, especially against the biological sprays that are being used by ICE agents. So the bike patrols are distributing this to resistors on the ground. And what I've heard is that bikers are actually looking to take time off work to make this their full-time job until ICE is out of Minnesota.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing. Well,
And
we've
this
got,
is the, yes,
go ahead, go.
this is the other one that I want to bring up. They're called filter blockades. Now you can see the picture here on the right. It is in the middle of intersections, and so it becomes a roundabout, and folks are gathering together with block parties and at these spots. So there is this proposal that has come out, and these ICE blockades, filter blockades, are happening because they are noticing that what ICE does is that they have a turn and burn mobile strategy. They come quickly into the community, kidnap neighbors before too many people can respond. Even though there is rapid response, it's not quick enough. So by introducing these filter blockades at every other or at the intersections, cars that come through, if they're friends, we'll wave. But ICE cars that come through, there will be just a lot of whole noise, and there is an amazing interconnectivity of social media. So that goes out, ICE cars are coming. So what I'm seeing is, we are continuing showing up for our neighbors. That picture there is the blockade or roundabout at George Floyd Square. So they're using that principle for this, and I think it's pretty amazing. So these are the two, uh, um, you know, ground level actions that are happening right now.
Unbelievable. It's fantastic. We got 105 people with us. Melissa Bird, do you want to jump in and give us join with Hetty and give us the update from Oregon, please? You got
Hi everyone. Dr. Melissa,
yeah,
can you hear me? Yep.
yeah. Go ahead,
Dr. Melissa
go.
Bird, Dr. Melissa Bird from Oregon, congressional candidate in National District 4. There's a couple of things that have happened since last week. One is that the peaceful protesters last Tuesday were attacked by ICE in Eugene
Oh,
at several different protests. The first one is called Singing for Our Lives, and it's an interfaith gathering where people pray and sing. And that gathering was attacked by ICE, and then they had a candlelight vigil for Alex Preddy that night, which was also attacked by ICE. Bombs, the gas, all the things, the spray. So that was last Tuesday. A week ago tomorrow. And then what happened that the president issued a statement on Truth Social specifically talking about Eugene and Oregon being the next target for the same kind of things that we've been seeing in Minnesota. So that got ramped up. But the other thing that I wanted to bring your awareness to, Trillium, is that there's a press conference with the governor and my opponent, Representative Val Hoyle, yesterday. And this congressional district where Eugene is mostly up and down the coast. So it's about 3/4 of the coastline of the state of Oregon. And of course, that's an international border. And Eugene is 61 miles from Florence, which is on the coastline of Oregon. So basically they've been hiring Border Patrol here for several months. Really, it started ratcheting up, especially in the fall. And one of the things that was really disturbing me yesterday was that the representative said that for her knowledge, Eugene was not within 100 miles of an international border, and her district was not within 100 miles of an international border. And I had to go online and help people understand that actually this whole district is an international border. It's important for people from Oregon to understand that. The other thing that got released last week was some findings from they're trying to build an ice city on the coast here in Newport, and findings were released that they won't be starting construction until after May 1st, but it's not off the table. So we still have to fight an ice facility being here on the coast. And part of the hope is that we have an Oregon law here that protects the coastline, particularly from sewage. And so my hope is that Oregon law holds so that they cannot build a facility the size of which they're planning on building. So
Well, how big do they want to build it? Melissa, how big are they want to?
The understanding, so from what they have been reporting, the understanding is that they were looking for a permit to process 10,000 gallons of human waste a day, which is like that is so much
And what, they want to
sewage.
pour it in the ocean?
I don't know what they're going to do with it.
Okay. Well, they could send it to Mar-a-Lago. That would be good. But
I mean, yeah,
okay, so
why not?
and you have opposition to ICE building that facility. I know that they wanted to build one back in Waldport. And what happened with that?
Well, so they wanted to house the ICE agents in Waldport, which is just south of Newport. So they want the facility to be in Newport, and then they wanted to house IJ. I'm actually sitting in Waldport right now. And you live from Waldport, Oregon. And so the city, their residents put so much pressure on the city council that they weren't able to push that through.
Fantastic. That's a victory. And what about Portland?
But the ICE continues to escalate in Portland. And the governor or the mayor of Portland has made formal requests for ICE to leave Portland.
So we got the mayors.
They've unleashed a lot of tear gas in Portland.
They're they're still shooting tear gas in Portland?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So Portland and Minneapolis.
And I think Eugene, yes, I think Portland
Wow.
is very similar to Minneapolis, but I think Eugene is the city to watch because yeah, I think Eugene is actually the city to watch.
Is that because the university's there?
Yeah. Yep.
Unbelievable. All right. Anything else you want to add? Does anybody else on the call here from a city that's under attack that wants to give us a report? That's mind-boggling. It feels like World War II here, for God's sakes. Hetty, you have relatives in Minneapolis. Are they safe?
Yes, and they're involved in different ways. My son is a stand-up comedian, and they did a show on Sunday night, and the proceeds went straight to legal aid. So there's a need for good lawyers. Things are going into the court, and the money was going into there.
And last night on TV, I saw Bruce Springsteen do a performance of the anthem in Minneapolis. It was very, very powerful, of course. We have 125 people with us. Jacqueline has raised her hand. Let's get her unmuted. Anybody else want to speak from a city under attack? Please do. Jacqueline, you're not, I can't get you unmuted. There you go. Go ahead, Jacqueline. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm from New York, and right now, Rockland County, where I live, tomorrow night we're going to try to have our Board of Legislators try to put forward a law that's countywide that law enforcement, sheriff's office, police departments cannot interact with ICE, cannot help them. We have up in Orange County, the next county up from me, we have ICE is trying to buy a warehouse that's up there that's pretty huge. So that's been making the press. And of course, that town is 100% opposed. But, the federal government has this right to buy these private warehouses that are maybe just empty. And they can do that. But we will be using the idea of, the sewage issues. How do you take care of all these people and the water needs and everything else? And where I live in Rockland County, we have a very specific water issue where we only get water from the Hackensack River into Lake DeForest and a few wells. So, that would decimate the water supply for Rockland County if that happens here. But anyway, we are in solidarity with the people of Chester, New York. And we are also, one of my social justice groups, the Rockland Coalition and the New Jim Crow, is also bringing supplies to families who have an incarcerated person at the Delaney Center in Newark, New Jersey. So we're pretty involved in trying to, make sure that this isn't happening here, but trying to support the places where it is. That's about it, I
So
think.
do you think when Hitler built Dachau, do you think he went to the local community to get a building permit?
No,
So, okay, just checking. Lynn Feinerman, you're also, where'd you go? Lynn, go ahead. And then
Yes.
Connie Klein in Ohio.
Hi. Hi there. I just want to emphasize that even in counties and cities where it appears to be quiet, ICE agents are still constantly working every day, and they are picking people up without anybody knowing or being able to respond. And one of the ways in which they manage to work undercover in a way is in Marin County. Marin County follows the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program. It's an incredible euphemism. What it means is that the sheriff's department cooperates with ICE so that ICE knows when the sheriff's department has picked up anybody. And ICE will come in and round up these prior to their having any kind of trial or any kind of legal process whatsoever. So it's not, big colorful stink bombs and people being dragged off and murdered, but it's the same process. And so Marin County activists we're working on trying to force the Board of Supervisors to get the sheriff to unleash from ICE. It's basically a form of bounty hunting. And the Marin County Sheriff's Department last year got $1.8 million from turning people in.
Oh, like a bounty.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they paying? Do we know the prisons that the ICE is using? Are they privately run, and do they get a head tax on the people they arrest? And I do want to acknowledge we have Ray McClendon with us from Georgia, and Ray, I may jump in, so stay with us, please, because Ray's going to give us a report on the FBI attack on the election facility.
Sonny, Ro Khanna just joined.
And Ro Khanna has joined us. So if we can, I know that the congressperson's time is valuable, as is everyone else's, but Ro Khanna, do you want to acknowledge and say hi?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me and for all of your organizing efforts. I was just actually on a train to New Jersey, and I'm coming back to campaign for Anna Lilia. She's the extraordinary progressive running in Mikey Sherrill's former district, and she's also was the former political director for Bernie Sanders. But I was talking about why we need bold progressives at this time.
Well, good.
Can you turn your camera on?
Yeah, Ro Khanna, do you want to be seen? We have 131 people on the call for you, and but I can't see you. Where are you here, Ro Khanna?
Yeah, he's a
muted.
co-host, and for anybody who doesn't know, and
Can
I'm
you hear
sure-
me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
now.
Yeah.
If you want to be seen, go ahead and turn on your camera, please.
Yeah, I'm on a train, so I won't be able to be
Okay.
on.
All right. No problem. No problem. Mike, did you want to say something? And then Congressman, we'll talk to you directly. As I say, we have 134 people with you now.
Wonderful.
Go ahead.
Yeah, real quickly, Ro Khanna doesn't really need much of an introduction to anybody on this Zoom, but just in case anybody doesn't know, he's been hard at work getting things done. And it's wonderful to have leaders who take the right positions. It's really special when that leader can actually bring over some Republicans to get the Epstein files released, bring people together to consider a wealth tax, a whole bunch of other things, standing up for the average everyday person and everyday family against the oligarchs and the billionaires. So Ro Khanna is just a real hero of mine. He's a real hero for everybody in the progressive movement. And I don't want to keep talking to cut into his time.
Okay.
So please, Congressman, take it away.
Yes, and Congressman, I want to introduce you very quickly. We have Hetty Tripp, who's reporting to you from northern Minnesota. and she's been giving us the day by day on the battlegrounds in Minnesota. We have Melissa Bird, who's running for Congress in Oregon, and we also have with us Ray McClendon, who is in Atlanta. Ray is the founder of a group called Communities United, and he is monitoring the FBI attack on the election facility there. So if you have staff people that need to hear from these folks, Ray is going to give us a complete report on the FBI attack there. We also have people from your neighboring districts in Central California who are working now to shut the Diablo Canyon nuclear plant and to lower electric rates in California. And we have the actual legislation that was passed in 2018 that would have phased out Diablo Canyon and phased in rate drops that would have been 25 to 50% in California. And we want very much to work with you on that. So if you have a staff person that we can be in touch with on that issue, that would be really great. And with that, we'll turn it back to you. We're now up to 137 people.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mike, for that very generous introduction and for your incredible leadership. And thank you for convening this. Elizabeth on my team will connect you to Kevin, who's our renewable energy and climate person and can work on the Diablo issue and also on how we lower electricity costs. I've already talked about making PG&E a public utility, not an investor-driven utility, and breaking it up. And so we're happy to talk about more steps that you think are necessary.
We're totally in favor of that. It makes perfect sense. And the only way to lower electric rates in California is to shut Diablo Canyon as planned by Jerry Brown in 2016 and go 100% renewable. And we know you're on board with that. We have the people ready to do it. So we're glad to be talking with you about that. And we'll be in touch with Kevin about that. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I look forward to that. I have been focused today on the vote coming up on ICE. We absolutely cannot be voting to keep ICE at triple the funding of what it was. Bernie Sanders introduced an amendment to repeal that triple funding. That amendment failed. At this point, the Democrats need to be unified in saying not an additional dollar for ICE. I was in Minneapolis last Monday. I met with people there. I appreciate that you have someone there on the ground reporting, but the city is under siege. You have ICE agents following people to churches, following them to restaurants, following them to small businesses. The assaults on immigrant families, legal immigrant families, were stunning to hear. The violation of rights of third and fourth generation Americans, of Minnesotans, was devastating. So I have said we need to tear down the entire ICE agency. We need to start a new agency that's actually under justice and follows human rights. I've come up with a 10-point plan. It includes no new funding. It includes repealing the $75 billion that tripled the funding. It calls for a new agency. It calls for ending ICE agents' qualified immunity. It calls for impeaching Kristi Noem. It calls for codifying a standard of force. And it calls for standards at ICE detention facilities. I've been to the California City Detention Facility, spoke for hours with 47 detainees. It is unconscionable how we're treating those in our detention centers. Someone there said we're being treated worse than murderers and worse than animals. So we really need to uphold human rights. In addition to the ICE issue, of course, I've been at the forefront with Thomas Massie of the Epstein Files release. It is sickening to see how many of our most powerful people in tech, in finance, in real estate, political leaders have email correspondence saying that they are planning on going to Epstein's Island, where they knew that Epstein was a pedophile and raping young girls. They said they wanted to participate in parties with these young girls present. It's really a indictment on the elite class in America that for decades so many of our most powerful and wealthy people were going to an island where young girls were being raped. It shows that there are two tracks of justice in this country. It shows that the rich and powerful have used that wealth and power to avoid any accountability and to rig the rules in a way that they get away with things that most Americans would never dream of, and that they've created a society where ordinary Americans have been left out, where ordinary Americans don't have fair justice and they don't have a fair shot at the American dream. We need the in class to go. There have been about 50% of the documents released as a result of my efforts. We're finding documents released without compromising victims' identity. The things they've released are bad enough, but I believe what they are holding are some of the most nuclear files. And we need there to be investigations and prosecutions of people who were on this island and who knowingly participated even after Epstein was convicted as a pedophile. We need to continue to show moral clarity on Gaza. One of the reasons I'll be voting no is I'm against the military aid, military sales to Israel, not when they have committed a genocide in Gaza. And the Democratic Party needs to be clear, not just in opposing new funding for ICE, but opposing new funding for the Israeli government, given what they've done in Gaza. This weekend, we have the Super Bowl in my district, and I will be working hard to make sure that ICE doesn't have any role there. I'm leading a letter with other California members to make it clear that we demand that ICE not be present at the Super Bowl event, and we will be on call during the Super Bowl, not watching the game, but they're really to be making sure no one is being harassed or violated, their rights violated in my district. Beyond that, I have supported the idea of taxing billionaires more, despite a lot of pushback within my own district. I believe you can't have islands of prosperity and seas of despair. We need a new tech social contract. We need an FDR moment in this country, a higher tax on billionaires and ultra wealth, Medicare for all, $10 a day childcare, free public college, 1,000 new trade schools, making sure that we stop Wall Street from buying single family homes, making sure that we're investing in social housing and housing that is affordable across this country. We need a real New Deal moment to make sure that people have economic security and a Marshall Plan for America where we will build the jobs of the future in the industries of the future, in the care economy, in the trades, in technology, in every town across this country. That has been the agenda that I hope that we can build for the nation and the progressive movement. And I'm really grateful for the 137 people on this call because I know you're out there fighting for that agenda. I do believe after this crisis that Donald Trump has created, we will have room for a realignment and a progressive majority. And I look forward to working with all of you to build that.
Beautifully spoken, Congressman. And we've followed your career. You've been a great representative. A couple of quick things on the second half. We're going to have a deep dive on the Palisades nuclear plant. It's a federal issue now. We know we have very important defects within the Palisades reactor that should not allow it to restart. And we do have a game plan that's been in place for 10 years to phase out the Diablo Canyon reactors and phase in 100% renewables, which will make California have much, much cheaper electric rates. We know you're in the forefront of that. We're working with the Mothers for Peace in your neighboring district there, and we look forward to working with your people on that. I also have on the call Ray McClendon from Atlanta. You're going to be dealing with the FBI raid on the election facility in Georgia. And that is not about 2020, it's about 2026 and the game plan of the Republicans to do whatever they can to take that election. That FBI raid is going to be on your desk in Congress, and Ray McClendon is the guy who knows the most about it. And I wanted to have, Ray, can you very quickly introduce yourself to Ro Khanna?
Sonny, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Senator Eric Putnam is on, and I know he only has about maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, we'll get to him in a second, Hetty.
Okay.
We'll introduce him to Ro Khanna. Ray McClendon, this is Congressman Ro Khanna. Ray is a very, very important player in Atlanta and right in the heart of this FBI attack on the election board. Can you say hi to Ray McClendon, please?
Thank you, Ray.
Hello, how are you doing, Congressman? And thank you for all of the hard work you're doing to push the progressive agenda and to represent not just your district, but for us being a leader all across the country. Real quickly, let me just recap. As everyone knows on this call, of course, the FBI raided Fulton County and took over 700 boxes of records, voting records, and they took ballot images, voter rolls, absentee ballot invitations. They essentially took all of the documents associated with the 2020 election. Now, on its face, we know that much of this is an obsession with Trump about 2020, but this is bigger than 2020, as Harvey just mentioned. This is a concerted effort from around the country. Many of you know that the Justice Department has been requesting detailed personal voter information from all states, and in fact, over half the country is states are in lawsuits. Half the states in the country are in lawsuits about this information. Georgia is one of those where a Republican governor and Republican Secretary of State are actually fighting against releasing these records. In addition, during that same period of time, we've also seen the State Election Board, which, as many of you know, turned into a MAGA election board with through the appointments from the state legislature. They specifically went after Fulton County. They used their election board authority to subpoena records. The Fulton County Board went to court to belay that request. That was back and forth. And then they reached out, they meaning the state election board reached out to Pam Bondi and asked Bondi to help them with that civil action. So all of this has been building with regard to not only the entire state of Georgia, but with the Fulton County Board, which, as many of you know, voted overwhelmingly for Biden in 2020 and is a Democratic stronghold.
So Congressman,
go ahead.
Ray here is right at the belly of the beast. We know this is about 2026. We know this is about the Republicans trying to grab hold of Georgia for the midterm election. Ray, do you want to very quickly give your contacts so that the Congress?
Yeah, sure. So I'll put it in the chat. And,
real quick, Ray. I can connect you up, but the congressman has to go. So if we need,
I'll put it in.
Yeah, Ray, we'll make
chat.
sure. Thank you for your incredible work. We'll make sure that Elizabeth on my team is in touch with you, and that we are fighting for fair and election. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah,
thank you.
Ray has a tremendous track record.
We want Melissa Bird to say hello to the representative as well.
Yeah, Melissa's reporting from Eugene, Oregon, and she gave us a heck of a rundown before you came on.
She's the PDA endorsed candidate for that district.
Hi, Representative Khanna. How are you?
Okay.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for.
Can you hear me? Okay. I am running in Congressional District 4 against Representative Val Hoyle, and I'm the progressive candidate in this district. I have a specific question about your 10-point plan that you were talking about regarding ICE. Have you considered how you are including Native American people as part of these efforts? Because, as you know, we are being targeted because we are brown people, and I'm deeply concerned about how ICE is maneuvering, particularly when it comes to violating the treaties and also violating the rights of American people. And I'm curious if you considered including in those actions reaffirming that Native American people are American citizens, considering the fact that we are not protected by the Constitution, we're only protected by the Act of 1924.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I was actually just in Elko, Nevada, where I met with some of the tribal chiefs who had raised this concern about ICE raids on tribal lands and violation of tribal sovereignty, in addition to Native Americans being profiled, being harassed even off tribal land. So absolutely, we should be affirming that in any conversation about the stopping of ICE abuses.
Thank you for
I
that.
have got to
I
jump.
have one more. We have a state senator, Arik Putnam, from the Ground Zero in Minnesota. Very quickly, go ahead, Arik.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate the chance to visit with you all. Sorry I can just pop in and I guess answer any questions or say anything that you guys are interested in hearing about in central Minnesota.
Thank you.
Well, Senator Putnam, why I asked you to come is that you're one of the few legislators who have put your body actually in front of ICE to
Hetty, real
anger from
quick.
that.
The representative has to go now, so we're going to say goodbye to him
Okay.
and thank him for his time with us.
Thank
You
you.
know, there's
Thank you so much
going
for
on all
everyone.
the time.
Ro Khanna, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you at the shutdown party for Diablo Canyon, and we'll be in touch. No nukes, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
And we'd love to have him back and you know, obviously keep this conversation going.
Mike, thank you
everybody.
for bringing him. We've had over 140 people through the whole time. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Okay, so
Thank you,
back.
Mike Hirsch, for bringing the congressman
Yes,
to
yes.
us. We appreciate that.
So-
Senator Putnam, you've got just a few minutes. Thank you, Hetty, for bringing him. You got rolled by ICE. Tell us about it, please.
Well, sure, and thanks to Hetty, my friend and colleague and neighbor, for giving me a chance to visit with you guys. And thank you to all of you who care about Minnesota. The outpouring of love, affection, and respect that we've received since things went south on us has been really, really great. And if people are saying that this is just I know no one on this call is going to say that this is law enforcement and this is a reasonable behavior and it's not punishment. One quick point to make: I'm the chair of the Ag Committee in Minnesota, and every state gets money for funding for their efforts to stop avian influenza, bird flu. That's why the eggs cost so much, right? The USDA canceled its funding, but only to Minnesota. So if you're wondering about whether or not this is punitive, it damn sure is. And I'll say some of the things that we've seen in our neighborhoods are absolutely horrendous. We have ICE at hospitals. We have ICE waiting at courthouses to collect people who are there for their asylum hearings, who are doing the right thing. And we had an event in St. Cloud, Hetty in my hometown, about 3 weeks ago, I think it was, where we had an East African mall. And I had heard a couple days before of someone who was abducted from there, who was a citizen. So I came back the next day, it was an hour or two after ICE had left, to put up my phone number and to talk to the business owners, to let them know that they could call me and I'd see if I could help if something happened. And I think this is illustrative, and it's also terrifying. I talked to one of the individuals who was there in this cafe. And I said, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? That must have been fairly traumatic. And this is actually what he said. And I hope we can all take a minute to reflect on it. He said, "It's not my first civil war.
Wow.
It's not the first time I've seen the government abduct its citizens." This is a man who fled Somalia and came to St. Cloud and said, well, 6-1. I mean, that has to be a gut check for every American. But what happened is I put up some flyers with my name and phone number on them. And then a couple days later, I was actually at the doctor about to get my blood drawn, and I got a phone call from one of the business owners who said there are 65 ICE agents here to get one guy. In a mall,
65 agents?
65 agents to collect one person at this essentially small mini mall. And it was terrifying and disgusting at the same time. It was not America. And so as I was standing there, I saw an individual thrown to the ground. I saw another individual running away from being caught, a young man, probably 19. And the ICE agent sprayed him with pepper spray in his back as he was leaving. And obviously there's a couple problems with that. That's not how pepper spray works. So we're clearly dealing with someone who's horribly trained and doesn't know what he's doing, and also who's operating out of antagonism and anger and not out of a respect for citizens or for law and order. So I and a couple other folks got in between the two populations, and we got all the ICE folks on one side of the parking lot and all the community members, people who actually live here and who actually care about our community, kind of on the other side. And it took us about 45 minutes to calm things down. And then St. Cloud Police Department showed up. and they helped a little bit too. But one thing that I think is important to note, I'm a big fan of complexity. In my day job, I'm a nerd. I'm a professor in my day job, so things are more complicated than we often think they are. And I will say that of the 65 ICE agents, probably 7 or 8 were relatively reasonable, but they were also the ones who weren't wearing masks. So there were individuals without masks, and I went to them and I said, "What do you want?" And they said, "We got our guy. We just want to leave." But the parking lot was fairly congested. And so I went to the other side and talked to the community, like, "What do you want?" And they said, "We just want them to leave." And in that space, it took us 45 minutes to find the way for them to get their cars out of the parking lot and for them all to leave. But one point that I think is also really interesting, and I'm sorry for talking so much, but we don't have a lot of time, is I'm standing between the two groups. And I said, as an act of faith, as an act of good faith, everyone on this side, take 2 steps back. Everyone on this side, take 2 steps back. Because when these things happen historically, when violence occurs in these spaces, it's the populations of color who get hurt. It's the businesses owned by populations of color. So we just wanted no violence to occur. And interestingly enough, the entire community took 2 steps back without a problem. Didn't say a word. Of the ICE agents, about 80% of them took a step back. But one of them was standing there with his arm crossed, his mask up, and he said, "I'm not giving up an inch of my mother territory." And I thought, that's not what a cop says. That's not what someone who's
Eric,
interested in
real
law
quick,
enforcement says.
we're going out on the radio, so we're going to try to keep it
Oh,
Okay, go
family
ahead.
friendly. But I
I did
It's
not
all right,
realize.
all right, just go ahead.
love the passion though. Keep it going. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was quoting. Does that make it any better? Probably not.
Just go ahead. Just go ahead.
Well, that's pretty much the punchline of the story. Is that that's not what a law enforcement officer says. That's not
That's
someone
right.
who's protecting a community says. It's
And
not about your
this
territory. It's
person,
not about your
this
ego.
person was probably wearing a mask. Is that right?
Yes, he was. And so that was really interesting to me to see even the complexity within the ICE agents, but acknowledging that some of them were clearly there just to be hoodlums. And I apologize for the profanity.
No. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Speaking
So,
too much.
very good, Eric. Is there anything you want to add? We have Carla Sand raised her hand. We still have 135 people with us. Carla Sand, I know, is from Minneapolis or Minnesota, and then we'll have Myra Reeson.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I am Carla Sand and I'm not from Minneapolis or St. Paul. I'm from a ring suburb, Maplewood. And
Okay,
that's
go
why
ahead.
I'm bringing
Hey,
my
go ahead.
voice forward. It's because I want the state senator to know it, because I just came off a 2-hour meeting for housing, and not just for the metro surge, but for the cold weather. Plus, also everybody wants to watch the news, and every 2 seconds it's ice and ice and ice. But don't forget, there are good people out there that are bringing food every day. They're working in the suburbs, even though they're not in the city. And I'm a member of DSA and our rep, so I know exactly what's happening down there. And it's not all on the press, or unfortunately. So I had to bring that in more positive.
Thank you very
No,
much.
I'm glad you did. And I'm so incredibly proud of the people of Minnesota and have raised up. And I'm glad that we got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. I think we might offer to give it to Iowa if they make us king of Wisconsin. Maybe that'll work.
All right. Well, maybe Minnesota will take over Greenland. Myra Reeson, and then I want to ask Ray McClendon for a quick update. Myra, go ahead.
Yeah, and thank you, Hetty and Eric, for these updates. I'm really curious. I've been hearing that that nothing much has changed since Holman took. Is that accurate? Are things as bad? Have things gotten better in Minnesota?
I will say they're less visibly awful in my community. And I don't know if that's Holman or if that's a response to the bad press that they got 3 weeks ago in the incident I was just mentioning. I don't know, Hetty, if I know things are still happening. It just doesn't seem with the same frequency. But I don't know, Hetty, maybe I have a different perspective.
Well, maybe you should give him another 50 grand in another paper bag. That would really help.
Right.
No, he has his own agenda. And so things are happening. They're not just killing people now, but they're doing it. For example, I was talking about the filter blockades. They're coming in and out very fast. I don't know if Marlena from Fair Justicia wants to come on, and she is with the Latino community here for many years, and has been, it's still happening.
Okay. Ray McClendon, is anything like this happening in Georgia? Ray McClendon, are you still with us there?
Yeah, yes. ICE is in the metro Atlanta area now. There have been alerts going out nowhere near the level of oppression that's going on in Minneapolis, but ICE has been in various counties around the metro, as well as in going to some of the schools. So the alerts are out and people are being vigilant. So it has increased over the last 2 weeks.
Okay, Melissa Bird, if you're still with us, we're happy to have a follow-up from Oregon. Nina Singer, Nina, go ahead, and then we're going to continue on with our reports from other locales. If anybody has a locale that we haven't talked about, please check in. Senator Putnam, we're happy to have you with us. So 130 people. Nina Singer.
Sonny, this is Carla. Can I give Ray a little punch? I just heard that they closed down the schools in Georgia, and because the freeways are all wet from about not even a half an inch of snow, but a bunch of wimps out there. He got his long underwear on wherever he is.
You are correct. You are correct. We're not used to ice and snow down here, so many of the North Georgia counties have closed schools today. So you're right.
But
we don't invest in the kind of equipment that you all.
It's because of the other kind. It's because of the other kind of ice. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the better choice of ice to have.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Well, imagine what would happen if it snowed in LA. Hetty, go ahead.
There is a person on this Zoom called Marlena Gutierrez, and she's with Fe Justicia, and they've been doing just amazing work with the Latin American community. And I wonder if she can come on now.
Go ahead, please. We still have 130 people with us. In 10 minutes, we're going to go into the nuclear land. State Senator,
please, if you can. Go ahead.
Go ahead, is she?
Hello?
Senator, we want you to shut while you're at this, if you can shut the nukes at Prairie Island and Monticello, we'd greatly appreciate it.
Harvey,
Go ahead.
this is Nina in South Florida. How are you?
Yes, Nina, go
I
ahead.
just wanted something quickly to add on to this. Thank you, State Senator Putnam. Too bad Rokon is not there. Are you aware that tomorrow is the day that TPS status for Haitians expires? And there is a House Resolution 965 to extend that for 3 years, but there's also a bipartisan letter extending for 1 year to February 2027, because we have 90,000 Haitian TPS here in South Florida working in the healthcare field. So hopefully everybody can call their congressman. And of course, they're coming to Ohio next for the same thing, for their claiming about the cats and dogs conspiracy theory, which is stupid. But we just have to protect these Haitian people. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope we can get somebody or hope to call our congressman to, call for the bipartisan effort, because tomorrow is like the deadline.
Well, yes. And I just read a horrific piece by an excellent journalist named Timothy Snyder,
Right.
who grew up
He's great.
in Springfield, as it turns out. I grew up in Columbus, but he's from Springfield, and his piece I highly recommend. Timothy Snyder. Go ahead. Thank you for that, Nina.
He's awesome.
Marlena Gutierrez, please.
Oh, there, Marlena.
Hi, this is Malena Gutierrez from Fe Justicia in Minnesota. We work in central Minnesota. Many of our areas are rural areas. And talking about my own experience here organizing for many years, our agriculture workers have been affected because they have been arrested, and it's been affecting directly because I have a brother that was arrested. He's documented, and he was arrested, and he said, I was not arrested. I was kidnapped because as soon they follow from home to work, and they pull over, they stop him, and what they did to him is as soon he opened the window, they grab him. They grab him, and another opened the door and pull out of the car and arrest him. And they say, "Are you citizen?" And he said, "No, I'm not citizen." And right away, so he was handcuffed, and they took it. we have been working here in the community with the rapid response team, and the rapid response team, they were watching when that happened. I was answering because we have the group to respond, and I was on the phone answering and the calls, and they were telling me what was happening. I not even know that it was my brother, and that after that happened at 7 o'clock, and at 12 o'clock in the morning, he called my sister-in-law and he said, I am in with immigration and they are gonna take me to Texas.
Oh my God.
And that was less than 20 hours, 24 hours, he was in Texas.
Oh.
So we it was so hard for us because I was on the phone call with this woman telling me documented everything that was happening to him, and he spent 12 days in jail. We hired a lawyer and everything. He was able to release him. He said, you gotta bring my client to Minnesota because you grabbed it from Minnesota and you need to bring it back. They bring it back, but on one Sunday he was released, and it was just Tuesday. Monday, Tuesday, and Tuesday, my brother went for his checkup. He's been checking every 6 months for 10 years because he's an asylum application, and he got arrested. And another brother, he is arrested. So, and this has been happening with a lot of families, that the whole family get arrested, and it's so hard to get people for the whole family, like 4 people in one house to get arrested, to get released, and they have been here for more than 20 years.
Oh my God.
So that has been, it's been a lot of things happening in the area. We have been watching people who's been arrested, and we are responding the calls and everything. Many volunteers came and support us, but many people has been responding, taking food to the houses. They are being donated a lot of food, and we just tell the people to stay home, and that is what we are been doing. But the people has been terrified, like Senator Eric Pacman said. It's not just 1-2 persons that come and arrest people. It's like 10, 20, 30 just for one person, and it's been terrorizing our community. So
it's unbelievable. I mean, and these guys are stormtroopers. That's what's really happening here. This is, the immigrants in America are being treated by Trump the way the Jews were treated in Germany by Hitler. This is just horrific. And remember that the death camps where the Jews were put to death, run by the Nazis, those camps were in Poland. They weren't in Germany, and now we have them in El Salvador and Texas, and it's unbelievable. Thank you so much for your report. It's really horrifying, and we all need very much to hear it.
Thank you, Marlena.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't know what to say after that. Ray McClendon, very quickly, we want to underscore the implications for the upcoming 26 election, in which so many people are putting so much faith with this raid in Georgia. Do you want to make some comments on that before we wrap this section up?
Real quickly, I will say, while many people are looking at 2020, this, as you said, this is more about 26 and 28. We know that voter suppression is going to be taken to a whole nother level by Trump this year, based upon the wave that we see building toward progressive victories going into the fall. So we should be prepared for the worst, which will be the seizing of voting records and apparatus and machines, suppressing through intimidation. This is a part of what Fulton County is all about, is to intimidate voters. I've already had voters who have suggested that they're worried about whether or not there will be a cross-referencing of, outstanding warrants or parking, anything from criminal warrants to parking tickets by having these records in the hands of the federal government, which puts a chilling effect on top of all of the other voter suppression methods of the MAGA Republicans. So we've got to be prepared going into the fall to see things in ways that we never have before and be prepared to respond to.
It's unbelievable. And my understanding is that there was a deal offered by Homan to pull the ICE troops out of Minnesota in exchange for the voting
So it
rights.
was about Bondi. Bondi put in her letter,
So
which
there's a
shows you what
letter
they're about.
saying, we'll pull the troops out if you give us your voting records.
Correct.
How blatant is that?
Yes.
I mean, really? And what are the implications for the upcoming 26 and 28?
But the issue, but what should be of concern, and I would really have appreciated Congressman Ro Khanna's answer on this. What does the federal government need with that level of detail when elections are run by states and not by the federal government?
And of course, the ICE will be out in force to intimidate voters of color at the same time that Trump wants to get rid of vote by mail. I mean, that's that's the obvious trade-off. Mike Hirsch, Steve Caruso, and Maya Reese, and then we're going to jump into nuclear land. Here we have Arnie Gunderson with us. I assume Roger Rappaport's going to show up.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for that, Ray. Thank you for your reporting and for everything that you do. Your leadership is beyond that measure. I will connect you with Ro's staff because what you just asked is a critically important question, and we know that all the way back from Bush v. Gore, where the Supreme Court said, well, it's up to the states to run their elections, but then the Supreme Court stopped the fair, free vote count in Florida 2000. And this is just the latest chapter. And we need his leadership on that. And you can inform him and empower him with the knowledge that he needs to take up that cudgel and protect us all.
Yeah, it's a very big deal, Ray. We appreciate that. Steve Caruso?
Yeah, Gabbard showed up down there, and it's out of her purview and totally off. I mean, legally, she's not supposed to be involved, according to
what was the
US law.
response in Georgia when Tulsi Gabbard showed up, Ray? What did people think about that?
Well, there's a level of outrage that you would have the top spy involved in pursuing a criminal warrant. I mean, you didn't even have the head of the FBI or any high anyone from the U.S. Attorney's Office involved in that raid. So it's clearly corrupt what's going on here, and you also have to remember that this warrant was not signed by the head of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Atlanta. It was signed by Thomas Albers, who is the U.S. Attorney out of Missouri.
Jesus. So
why is a Missouri U.S. Attorney signing a warrant for a criminal complaint in Atlanta?
Because no one else would do it.
Correct.
They should have got Patrick Mahomes. Myra, did you want to say something before we?
A couple of things. I believe it was earlier today that Trump said that elections should be federal, and he went on to say that there were 14 states, I believe he enumerated states, that he thought were not handling elections correctly, and that those should be supervised by the federal charge. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that it's my understanding that the role that Tulsi Gabbard played was to facilitate a conversation between Donald Trump and the feds, the FBI agents who raided county election facilities.
Yeah, is it true, Ray?
That's absolutely right.
That Donald Trump, the President of the United States, participated in a real-time phone conversation with the FBI agents on the ground in the Atlanta Election Board?
That was facilitated and initiated by Tulsi Gabbard. So just think about how unprecedented that is.
What was the
This is even
conversation?
more important than her showing up, is that she is literally getting FBI agents on the phone with the President of the United States to go over a criminal raid. Now, can you
Was the
imagine what would have
conversation?
happened if the people who raided, the agents who raided Mar-a-Lago got on the phone with Joe Biden? How the right would have flipped out.
Yeah.
Was the conversation in German? Sorry, couldn't resist. That's just that is. I got to say that again so that everybody understands that. The President of the United States made a phone call in real time to FBI agents raiding an election facility in Georgia.
And that he's now calling for the federal government to take over elections.
Now look at it this way. They already, people on the side, private individuals have discovered numerous multitudinous errors in Florida, people voting from places that aren't even finished being built and taken possession of. You got counties being counted that don't actually exist. You got, Liberty, the poll book company, had many errors in the past, and now they're owning Dominion. This is a setup for cyber war that we lost in 2024. And we have to recognize that it's not just all these political machinations going on, that there's a literal cyber war with computers taking over our elections. If we're afraid to admit that, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, really. Ray, we're glad to have you on the case down there. Let's talk again about this next week.
Sure,
This is
absolutely. Thanks,
absolutely
guys.
terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. All right, we're going to move into Nuclear. Steve, I don't know if you want to start a new tape. If it makes sense to do a self-contained unit here, but we are now going to make history, however you want to handle it, with a unit here of discussion with two absolutely critical players in the most critical nuclear power issue on the planet right now, which is the attempted restart of the shut reactor. We also have Carl Grossman with us. The reactor that's been shut down at Palisades in Michigan that a rookie company, Holtec, wants to reopen. Now, everyone, I'm going to give you a quick rundown and then we have Roger Rappaport. And for Roger and I, this is deja vu, because in 1967, back in the Stone Age, Roger was the incoming editor of the University of Michigan Daily, and I was the outgoing editorial director. And there are actually pictures of us in the same room together 60 years ago. So Roger, even back then, was a crackerjack reporter, and now lives in Muskegon, Michigan, near the Palisades reactor. Now, the Palisades atomic reactor opened a long time ago. Roger will give you the date. It shut down for various technical and economic reasons. And now, in a very, very high-profile pageant of error, the nuclear industry wants to reopen it as the flagship, to be followed by reopening reactors at 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania, Duane Arnold in Iowa, and maybe even Indian Point in New York. It's completely insane. But they put their eggs in this basket at this nuclear plant at Palisades on the west coast of Michigan, which shut because it was too old and too uneconomical to operate. It was shut by owners, first Consumers Power of Michigan and then Entergy. It was shut by owners who actually knew what's going on with the nuclear power industry. We've got their problems with them, of course, but they actually have a rough idea of what they're doing when it comes to operating a nuclear plant. The plant was sold to a company called Holtec, which is a decommissioning company. And it was sold apparently with the purpose of decommissioning it. There's a lot of money out there for decommissioning. And then somewhere along the way, Holtec decided that they were going to reopen the Palisades nuclear plant, which is, in the nuclear world, the definition of insanity. Now, they have been pushing ahead with this, and they have also tied it to an IPO, a stock market play that they obviously believe will make them billions of dollars. However, and the intrepid Roger Rappaport has done some digging and has found a major document that Holtec has filed with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Now, you have to understand the Nuclear Regulatory Commission has never been a great regulator. That's an understatement to say the least. But it has now been taken over by Donald Trump. Donald Trump now has personal investments in the nuclear power industry. He has a direct stake in the future of the nuclear power industry. And with Elon Musk, they have absolutely gutted whatever there was of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. The DOGE operation fired over 100 technical people at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. It's now up to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to decide whether or not Holtec has the technical imprimatur to reopen Palisades. And there are tremendous complications. And with that, I'm going to turn that over to Roger Rappaport, who discovered this document, who's doing a piece which we'll have tomorrow, dissecting what's gone on with the technical side of Palisades. And we have with us Arnie Gunderson, one of the great experts on the technical side, a nuclear engineer, to evaluate. And as someone who's been with the issue for 50 years, I can tell you this is about as absolutely insane a proposal as we've seen from the nuclear industry. We're also joined by Paul Gunter from Beyond Nuclear, another Michigan boy who's totally on top of this. So, Roger,
Harvey, can you put up the picture that I sent you of the dome? Do you have it?
I don't know. I think I sent it to Steve. There's a picture of a dome of a
Steve, have you got the dome picture?
Reactor pressure head. But go ahead, Roger, and tell us, please, the nature. And this is a historical conversation because I believe it could very well lead to us stopping this restart, and which would have enormous implications. Okay, go ahead, Roger.
Well, first of all, before we get started, thank you, Harvey. I want to mention that Carl, you, and Arnie are, three of the people that are central to this conversation, that your work has brought us to this point, literally. Obviously, Kevin Camps, who's not with us today, is part of it. But let me just briefly back up and tell you a little bit. Now, the Palisades reactor, which opened in the early 70s, has been in business for about 57 years. And was built by Bechtel. There was a huge lawsuit with consumers when it was built. It does not meet the current standards of any nuclear reactor that's operating in the United States. It would not be licensed today. The reason why we're having this conversation is that after it was scheduled for decommissioning, as you pointed out, by a very large, one of the largest fleet operators in the world, Energy, it was scheduled for decommissioning. And the governor of Michigan and the previous governor, Jennifer Granholm, and Gretchen Whitmer, decided that there was economic potential in restarting the reactor. They would save some jobs and so on. And what worked out was that because of the Biden administration, now the Trump administration, some billions of dollars were appropriated in the form of grants, loans, subsidies, and so on, that made this financially feasible. But the problem was that it didn't have an operating license, which meant there was no way to restart it. And so what Holtec did was they decided that this was a great opportunity to start a new business for them. And as a result of that, they began work on the plant as they were decommissioning it, which means they anticipated that at some point they would get a license. So they went ahead and did a lot of work on the plant, anticipating that, as actually happened in the summer of last year, they would get an operating license. Now, remember, because they were decommissioning the plant, they weren't under any regulations that were applied by the NRC. However, last summer, when they got a permit to operate the plant, they suddenly fell within the operating license requirements of the NRC. And it's important to note that there were three areas where they did not comply or meet the NRC standards. So instead of solving the problem, they applied for exemptions from the NRC. The first one was for the emergency evacuation plan. The second one was for the fire protection plan. And then there was one other one that was a lot more complicated because the steam generators at the plant have thousands of tubes, about almost 20,000. And many of these tubes on inspection turned out to be cracked. And they proposed re-sleeving. And this is really important because they didn't propose fixing the broken tubes that were cracked, that is, basically grinding away the cracks and then re-sleeving. They just went ahead and re-sleeved the cracks, re-sleeved the tubes and left the cracks in. So this is pretty controversial because obviously if the steam generator tubes are cracked, they can leak radiation when the reactor goes back onto operation. During the government shutdown in late last fall, the NRC, which had been, basically operating, on a very small scale because of the financial cutbacks and the staff wasn't being paid, the inspectors went ahead and okayed all three of these exemptions. Okay, so they had announced in October that they'd received the fuel ready to go, and then suddenly, a few weeks ago, they announced a delay. They announced that they're not going to be able to start. That was originally supposed to start last summer, then the fall. Now it's March. So here's what happened. In an 84-page letter to the NRC filed this week, they asked for a relief request that would give Palisades basically an unprecedented reaction. As far as we know, and Arnie, you can correct me on this, no reactor in the world has ever gotten this. We're not just talking about the United States. As far as we know, there is no reactor in China, Russia, any Chernobyl, you name it, no one has ever gotten this exemption. Now, it's possible there might be one, but we don't know about it. And here's what they want. Under the current rules, in order to do a weld in this plant, you have to meet standards that are set by the American Society of Medical Engineers. And believe it or not, welding a nuclear power plant is not like welding a furnace, okay? It's a very, very technical piece of work.
Roger, you said medical, you mean metallurgical.
Metallurgical, yeah. Metallurgical, yeah, right. It's a very tough job. And there's a reason for it, because if the welds fail, all hell can break loose. And here's what it's at stake. So on top of the reactor, there's a dome. It's a lid. It has a formal name. And essentially what they want is, it's called the reactor vessel closure head. And this is a $750 million piece of equipment. That's what it would cost to buy a new one, something in that ballpark. It weighs 100 tons. It's the biggest, heaviest piece in the reactor system. And it sits on top of the, you can see a picture of it here. We also have a photograph of it. Maybe the photograph can be shown too. And basically there are control rods on top of the reactor vessel bed. And the control rods sit inside tubes. And when you drop the control rods in, the nuclear reaction goes critical, the plant goes critical, and it starts. When they want to stop it, they just take the tubes out. On the bottom of these tubes, you can see them here in the image, if we've got the image up again. Essentially, there's welding that makes sure that the boric acid solution that is inside the tubes doesn't leak, because if it does, that boric acid could start creating a hole in the reactor pressure vessel head, okay?
And so we had that. The boric acid did leak at the Davis-Besse reactor in Ohio, and there were holes, and they had to replace the whole vessel head.
And because of that Davis-Besse disaster, many nuclear reactors around the country, not Palisades, went ahead and replaced the reactor vessel heads proactively, and they were advised to do so. What happened at Palisades was the two previous owners limped along and kept getting exemptions for years and years. But now the new owner realizes that when they did the welds last year, before they were licensed, they did not comply with the ASME standards. I'll say that again. They re-welded these locations, the nozzles that seal off the control rods that are held in the tubes on top of the reactor, to seal off the potential of the boric acid leaking, because if it leaks, that means it can the acid can create a hole in the reactor vessel pressure head, which of course, the instant it happens would be a major shutdown. So what they really need to do is replace the pressure head, which would take years and cost hundreds of millions of dollars before they restart. The decision not to do that is now part of this 83-page document that they filed with the NRC. The NRC now is in a very tough spot. First of all, no one has ever done this. They've never done these welds in this manner. And to make it even more complicated, they can't redo the welds. It's not like the steam generator tubes. There's no way they can redo the work that they weren't authorized to do that did not meet the ASME standards. In other words, they apparently did it in a way that's not in compliance, and they're asking for exemptions to the ASME standards. Now, if they get the standards, if they get the exemption, which is going to take a while, it's not going to happen quickly, then the whole industry is in a tough spot, because if there's a leak, that would essentially force a shutdown. And of course, the publicity of that kind of radiation leak would be worldwide. So there's a tremendous downside to restarting this plant, much worse than we ever thought, and far, far more dangerous, not only to the plant, but to the nuclear industry. And oddly enough, in this moment, and Arnie can explain it, the bad press from a failure at this plant not only would jeopardize the restart of these other reactors, it also would impact all the companies, including the one Donald Trump now co-owns, his family co-owns, that want to start the so-called small modular reactors. And here's why. Holtec is looking at $7 billion of potential government subsidy to, guess what, start new reactors on the Palisades site. I'm not making this up. So what way in the world is that ever going to go forward if they have a disaster of this level there? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people asking questions. And more to the point, it could cloud the future of the other restarts. And equally important, all this investor money that's flowing in as part of the gold rush toward new nuclear power plants. In other words, the reputational damage from a disaster as a result of this mistake could impact the future of the entire industry, not just Palisades and not just these restarts. Arnie, I think, can put it in better perspective.
Well,
there's never been a moment where they're in deeper trouble than this letter, because they spent 83 pages telling the government, we didn't do it with permission. We didn't submit a plan, which they should have done. We didn't do it up to ASME standards. Everything we've been talking about on this show for a year and a half, that I've been writing about in The Progressive, that Arnie's been writing about for years, and you've been fighting for 50 years. It's all come to a head in one letter.
It's mind-boggling. That's why this is a historic phone conversation. And I want to very quickly put a little more history here. There was a leak of the kind that Roger is describing at the Davis-Besse reactor in Toledo, outside of Toledo. And boric acid did leak onto a reactor pressure vessel head. And when it leaked onto the reactor pressure head, as Roger mentioned, it did eat a hole in the reactor pressure vessel head, which could have caused a Chernobyl on Lake Erie. There's absolutely no doubt that they were on the brink of an apocalyptic accident because of precisely what Roger is saying could happen if these welds fail with the reactor pressure vessel penetration rods at Palisades.
And I want to interrupt you. I want to interrupt you.
There you go.
This one point. What really is important about what you just said is this, and this is where I think Holtec, which has never operated a nuclear power plant, doesn't quite get it. Reactors all over the country, reactor operators all over the country realized that this design was faulty, and all over the country, many of them replaced their reactor pressure vessel heads because they were in stock, so to speak. They were available because the manufacturers still haven't. They're not available now. They're not on the shelf, which means it's going to take years, which is going to crater the Holtec IPO plan to go public in January last month, and now they didn't, and that's why.
And what happened at Davis-Besse is that because the anti-nuclear movement had successfully stopped the construction of a reactor at Midland, Michigan, midstream, there was in fact a virgin reactor pressure head at Midland. They were building the Midland reactor and it was sinking in the ground, so they had to stop it. And they had a pressure vessel lying around the head, and they took that head, and you're not going to believe this, they cut a hole in the containment dome at Davis-Besse, and they took out the old pressure vessel head that had the holes in it and put in the one from Midland. And now they're operating Davis-Besse with the secondhand virgin reactor pressure vessel. But there are no other reactor pressure vessels heads lying around. I mean,
right, because of you.
I had one in my backyard,
stopped,
but I sold it. What?
Because of you, people stopped building light water, you and Arnie and Carl and so on. People stopped building light water reactors, so there aren't any it's just the same thing with the steam generators. There aren't any in stock, which is why Holtec doesn't want to wait 3 to 5 years and spend $1.5 billion to solve their problem, because it craters their IPO and it craters their plan to do the SMRs. So they're in a time behind. That's the problem.
It's amazing. Arnie, do you want to comment now? after you're done laughing your head off here?
Yeah. Hey, Roger, that was a phenomenal explanation. I have to say, as the youngster among the three of us, that Harvey and Roger were in college when this reactor was being designed, but I was only in high school. I'm the kid here. So yeah, a couple of things. There's this joke in the nuclear industry that it's easier to get forgiveness from the NRC than it is to get approval. Mm-hmm. So I think that the executives at Holtec, on their own volition, tried to fix this and then go back to the NRC and say, hey, we did it. We need you to sign here. So I think that's the image that the executives had in their mind. Mm-hmm. Roger's right. The IPO here is key. It's an initial public offering. Holtec's going for about they've said as high as $10 billion IPO. And the key piece of that is, look what we did at Palisades. Look at how successful it's been. What's driving the management at Palisades, I believe, I've been an expert witness on a bunch of cases, and management's motivations are suspect because their bonuses are tied to getting that plant online. Mm-hmm. If you look at a plant manager, they're probably making between $400,000 and $500,000 a year, and they're on a 40 to 50% bonus plan. Mm-hmm. So if they meet their goals, they're going to walk away with not just the $500,000 in salary, but $250,000 in bonuses. Now that's going to cloud your judgment, right? I can understand that you might have priorities other than nuclear safety. Yet the NRC never looks at that. I confronted them a couple times, and they say that's out of their purview. But you have to remember, this IPO is driving the manager's bonuses, which is pushing this thing forward. The second thing is that Holtec has no assets. Companies own power plants, but Palisades has no value. It's a piece of junk. So, and as Roger said, Holtec never ran another reactor. So there's no assets there. And the joke is that Holtec runs on opium, OPM, other people's money. And they have to keep applying for the dole from the state of Michigan and from the Department of Energy in order to keep this project alive. You got to drill a hole in the containment. There are manufacturers around the world who could make one of these in a year or two. You drill the hole in the containment, you put it in. You're talking about 2 or 3 years of lost revenue that Holtec needed in order to pull off their scheme. The operating staff, they already have 600 employees, not the contractors that they can send home, but employees that they've retrained on how to run this plant. So, they're looking at $100 million a year salaries to people who they promised jobs to, and they train to do those jobs. who won't be able to do anything for several years until this new reactor head arrives. They've known about this head since 2006. So this didn't just pop up like a mushroom on your lawn. They've known about it for almost two decades now. Yeah. But the other problem is that the steam generators, they acknowledged when they bought the plant that the steam generators were a piece of junk, and now they're trying to run with those steam generators. So, hey, if you got a hole in the side of the containment for the reactor vessel head, you may as well put in a couple steam generators as well. So you're looking at about a 3-year delay in their plan to make this happen, and that's 3 years of doles from the federal government to subsidize a plant that already is not economically feasible. They've acknowledged that when Palisades starts up, even with all the doles that they have, they're going to have to rely on subsidized rate base in order to get the plant running. So this makes no sense economically. Certainly, as Roger said, no sense from a safety standpoint. But the Trump administration and the Michigan politicians, and I'm not sure if there's any flavor there. I think they're all Democrats and Republicans, but the political machine in Michigan is committed to this. So we're facing, we know it's not economical, we know it's not safe, but the politicians want it to happen. And this is and of course Donald Trump wants it to happen too. I mean,
and we also have, as we have that precedent that we discussed at Davis-Besse, the steam generators, which involve hundreds and hundreds of tubes that have to withstand pressure from a very, very superheated steam. We have precedent at San Onofre in California, where they put in a new steam generator without really following the rules again, and it leaked, and they had to shut the whole plant at enormous cost. So not only do you have the hole in the head at Davis-Besse, we have the leaking steam generators at San Onofre. Unfortunately, somehow Davis-Besse is still operating, which I find absolutely terrifying. But San Onofre did go down. So
Harvey,
thankfully for that.
There's another precedent that's probably more prescient, and that's at Indian Point 2. Indian Point 2, the NRC knew was that the tubes were not very good and allowed it to restart, and it blew a tube. Now, at Indian Point, they had a special design so that when the tube blew, they could take all the reactor power and dump it into the condenser. So there was no radiation release. That system doesn't exist at Palisades, and Palisades is just as bad as Indian Point 2. If a tube blows at Palisades, they have to use something called atmospheric dump. Now, that's exactly what it means. They're going to take that radioactive water and dump it out into the atmosphere. If that happens, they will have to fire off their emergency plan, at which point it's game over for any of these new nukes. So as Roger was suggested, I don't understand how the nuclear industry wouldn't be applying pressure on the NRC to not let this turkey be started up, because it jeopardizes everything else that they're trying to achieve.
Well, they've already got a turkey at Turkey Point in Florida. But this one here, people got to remember, this reactor sits on the west coast of Michigan, on Lake Michigan. So if, God forbid, there is an accident at Palisades, we lose Lake Michigan. The same as what would happen at Davis-Besse. I mean, on Lake Erie. This is absolutely terrifying. Mike Hirsch, and then I want to go to Paul Gunter, and we've been joined by Ray Lutz, who played a major role at San Onofre. Mike, did you want to say something? And I want to hear from Paul Gunter and then Ray Lutz. And then Carl.
Thank you, Sonny. A few things real quick. Number one is I think you've convinced me that these nukes might be a bad idea. I want to emphasize that Palisades is coming up, but right on deck is 3 Mile Island.
Yes, Unit 1.
They're talking about putting that back into operation. I mean, so what we're seeing here is a mad rush to cancerous power plants that even if they work well, are going to irradiate innocent people and cause huge cancer alleys. And we also know that we're going to have another meltdown. We've already had 3 Mile Island. We've already had Chernobyl, Fukushima. It's just a matter of time. So what I want all of you brilliant people to focus on and tell us right now what we can do to stop this mad rush, because I happen to know these tech bros are trying to invest billions of dollars in these unworkable tiny nuclear plants that the best case scenario is it'll just be a huge waste of money and they'll never work. But the worst case scenario, right, and the worst case scenario is they're going to put it all over the place to run these data centers.
Right.
So what all can we do?
Well, right now we're talking. I believe, and Paul Paul Gunter and then Ray Lutz can comment. I think that if Palisades goes down, and I believe that this could do it, then the other restarts are going to really be looking at an uphill climb. And this could have a domino effect, is what I'm thinking. Paul, what do you think about that? Then Ray, and then Carl Grossman.
Well, am I on? Let's see. Am I on?
Yes, you are. And
I'm not muted, right? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, Paul. You're wonderful.
Okay, thank you. So, well, the deck is stacked, friends. There are conscientious people at the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I've been working with them for decades, and they're whistleblowers. They definitely have a conscience, but they're now even for the conscientious commissioners, and there are indeed conscientious commissioners. They are under the pressure of the Trump administration now running the whole process. There is no regulation anymore. This is domination of the industry. We thought NRC stood for nuclear reactor or no regulatory control. But it's now much worse because it's run by, a narcissistic madman. And so it's going to take a mass movement but what I did wanted to mention was let's not leave out the reactor pressure vessel at Palisades. This is, the reactor pressure vessel is 6 3/4 inch thick iron that's lined with stainless steel, corrosion resistant stainless steel. And it's this stainless steel liner that prevents the boric acid coolant water from eating holes from the inside out. And when in the example of the Davis-Besse nuclear power plant, and certainly what could happen at Palisades, these plants are operating in instance of the Palisades plant. It's a combustion engineering reactor, but it's operating at 2,000 pounds per square inch, and at that pressure, water doesn't boil. So you can get the temperature of hot water up to 600 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's what is circulating through the steam generators on the hot leg. And so and at the same time, the reactor core with its neutron bombardment is changing the chemistry of the vessel, and the liner, and that leads to its chemical loss of ductility. So the setup that we saw at Davis-Besse, likewise, that could happen at the Palisades plant, is the neutron radiation was able to embrittle stainless steel liners, penetration seals where the control rods drive in and out. And that crack, a hairline crack at 2,000 pounds per square inch, forced the borated coolant out through that crack, and it came out in a steam flash, condensed, and then dropped back down onto the 600 degree Fahrenheit vessel head, the water flashed off, and you started getting a pooling of boric acid on the top of the vessel head that ate through 6 3/4 inches of steel, and we came within 3/16 of an inch with that stainless steel, corrosion resistant stainless steel liner bulging out into this crater like like an inner tube out of a ball tire. It was stretching that steel. And we came maybe within 8 weeks of a major loss of coolant accident at Davis-Besse. The point being, the Palisades nuclear power station is probably one of the most embrittled reactor pressure vessels in the entire industry. And so, the regulator, if you can even hint at it, is ignoring, taking this jalopy into not just the restart. The restart is only the prelude to a 20-year license extension that will send this reactor on a mission to operate out to 60 to 80 years. They're already in the initial license renewal for, their original license was 40 years. They got an initial license renewal for 20 years, and they're now in that period of 40 to 60. But in 2031, that's where this restart takes you. Then they will be coming for a 60 to 80 year license extension. They will run this plant into the ground. And the only reason they're doing the restart is to deal the deck so that they have this economic reach for a 60 to 80 year license extension. And that's the big concern. This restart is only a prelude to a much more likely disaster as the embrittlement just keeps going.
Okay. Yeah, embrittlement. I'm glad you raised that, Paul. We haven't talked about embrittlement yet. And let's go through Ray Lutz, who has a lot of expertise with the steam generator, and then we'll go to Carl Grossman. Ray, you're in Southern California. You had experience shutting down San Onofre. How does that play out at Palisades?
Well, thank you so much. The San Onofre is just like a storybook of how these things can go bad. And even with the best of intentions, they're trying to, reinstall the steam generators, the largest in the world, had a new company make them, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. And I read through all of their stuff. And at a certain point, the expert said, we're not sure if this is going to vibrate itself apart because your modeling is incorrect. They had a three-way, like a pyramid, the tubes in a pyramid. And the model was set up for a four, like a square orientation. So their modeling was completely for a different tube orientation within the steam generator. Yeah, if you look at the picture, you see a big steam generator. That is really tall. It's like 60 feet tall and like 16 feet around. And there's 10,000 tubes that go up and around. Now, so their modeling was not correct. And the expert said, look, I want to build another simulator of this. And they said, no, we're tired of simulating. We just want to go forward with the design the way it is. And they did that. And within 11 months, it had started to rattle itself into leaking. Fortunately, the emergency shutdown worked and the plant was shut down. And then fortunately, the company realized that they were not going to be able to restart this economically. If you really look at their books, you find out they do make a lot of profit on these, but mostly due to maintenance and upkeep. In terms of making power, the power is totally uneconomical. It doesn't compete with anything right now. And so you can work to try to close these based on economics of just the power, like how much does it cost to make it? None of these are a winner, none of them. And but they still like it because they can put it into their quarterly reports and so forth and say we're going to restart for 80 years. That's always sounds good. But the reality is that they're not very good economically. And then if you start adding in the waste problem, now this just happened. San Onofre had been saying, well, we're going to move this waste off site. If you look at it, it's right by the waves of the ocean, only 100 feet away from the water line. And sometimes the water splashes up into the area. So they said, well, we're going to be putting it in a consolidated interim storage site in New Mexico. And they had all these plans for all these places Holtec was going to be putting it in. Well, that's all been canceled. There is no storage site in New Mexico. New Mexico says that they don't want it. And nobody in their right mind would say, we want to bring in waste here from around the country and put it in our state. So it's really a sad situation with the waste. And it's another place where you can challenge them and say, what are you going to do with the waste? Are you going to store it on site for basically 250,000 years? I mean, even storing something for 1,000 years is technology that we don't have. And so these are the two areas that I would suggest. I'm not the expert of Arnie Gundersen, or I have so many esteemed people here that you have. I just happen to have boots on the ground experience with this particular case, and looking at their books and looking at the waste as well from this plant is just man. And you know, my final recommendation was to just move it away from the coast about 5 miles as a bird flies from the coast. It's about a 10-mile trip on a road. They can move it slowly. And what they had in mind was a train going through Los Angeles and Las Vegas for 1,350 miles. And this would take years and years and years. I mean, it is. And then Yucca Mountain is something that was never real. If you really look into it, it was never a real solution. So those are the two aspects. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, Ray. That train, by the way, would have come within 5 miles of my house, so I could have waved at the nuclear waste as it went by. Arnie Gundersen, do you want to comment? And then we'll go to Carl Grossman. Arnie Gundersen, do you want to comment on the technical realities of the steam generator at Palisades as opposed to San Onofre?
Yeah. Hey, I have to shout out to Beyond Nuclear and to Michael Keegan and the people at Don't Waste Michigan.
Hello there.
They say again?
I'm unmuted.
No, we got Arnie Gundersen.
Yeah. I shout out to the people at Beyond Nuclear, Kevin Camps and the ground game, Paul and the group back at the office, and the Beyond Nuclear people. We're doing so much with so few resources. 2 phenomenal attorneys, and we are just getting by. Whereas on San Onofre, there was a individual donor who ponied up a couple $1 million for a ground game to close San Onofre. They had public relations. They had DC attorneys. They had 10 experts, forces on the ground. So the effort at Palisades, we are small but mighty. But don't expect the San Onofre outcome with the funds that are going into it. It's not going to happen. On a technical issue, and I'll be off, and I've got a meeting I've got to leave for at 6. The technical issue was that when 3 Mile Island was closed down, when Duane Arnold was closed down, and when Palisades was closed down, they let the water sit. They didn't keep it maintained with pH control so that it didn't get too acidic or basic, and they didn't put oxygen scavengers into it in any of those plants. So the problems that we're seeing, the metallurgical problems that we're seeing at all of these plants are common, that they were walking away. They were going to close them forever. Kewaunee is another example. The water chemistry did not meet electric power and light guidelines for 3 or 4 years. And at that point, just let water sit in your toilet for 3 or 4 years and see what that looks like. So the power plant was damaged by neglect. And now people want to go back and say, well, it's okay. I called Palisades the Schrodinger's reactor because it was dead, and they're claiming that it should be somehow simultaneously alive, and it really isn't. So,
are you saying that the sitting water in the steam tubes, the steam generator at Palisades could have a tangible negative impact on its ability to reopen?
Oh, it did. It did. The reason for all, Palisades had like 4 cracks in the steam generator the last time they looked, and it had 1,200 when Holtec went in and looked, and that was because they let the water become corrosive, both acidic and with oxygen. So in a normal plant, when it shuts down, they still maintain the oxygen levels and the pH level, so the pipes don't crap out. And at Palisades and at TMI and at Duane Arnold and at Kewaunee, they didn't do that because they were going to shut it down. Who cares? It was scrap. So now you're trying to bring back, some car that's been sitting out in the field for 50 years, rusting, because
That's
you
amazing.
didn't maintain it.
So it's
I have to go because of.
All right, thank you, Arnie. Thank you.
I'm
We'll-
active in
yeah,
the
we're gonna
movement
reconvene.
here in
That what you
Minnesota.
just said is really mind-boggling. I haven't seen that. So we've had the introduction of embrittlement and now of wet rot in the steam generators. The two new issues that I hadn't heard raised. Carl Grossman and then
Good night, all.
Thank you, Arnie. Thank you. No news. We'll get you back.
If I
Carl
can just-
Grossman, did you want to comment now, please?
Sure. I just want to broaden the geography here. Holtec is also involved right now in a push to dump, 100 here, City and State magazine wants to discharge 1 million gallons of radioactive wastewater into the Hudson River.
Oh.
This is from the Indian Point nuclear plants, which it's also it acquired to decommission. But in fact, it's talking right now, Holtec is, about a restart. In fact, that line, an accident waiting to happen, originally derived from those Indian Point plants. They're 25 miles from Manhattan in the, it's the most densely populated portion of the United States. The Hudson River is, it's a valuable water resource. In terms of Holtec, it is an out of its mind company. In fact, you might wonder, how did it get its name Holtec? Well, this guy named Singh, he's the president of Holtec. He put the name together, Holistic Technology. Holistic, I would make new age people throw up.
Well, it stands for a hole in the reactor head. That's mind-boggling. Again, another one, Roger, for your piece. Tatanka Bricka, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I'm not a tech person, but as I put the pieces together here, Diablo Canyon, our governor came in and convinced the legislature to shut it down. That's 3 years ago. And I'm wondering if the people in the rest of the country, everybody in the industry, you're saying, seems to know that bad news anywhere is bad news everywhere for the nuclear industry, right?
Yeah.
And if they say, well, if these trendsetters in California can pull off such a scheme as to reverse a decommissioning, have no accountability for safety, no accountability for finance, no accountability for anything, and then have the ratepayers pay for the hedge fund managers at the facility to get a automatic guaranteed profit and shoot our rates up to the highest in the continental United States. If they can do that in California, well, maybe we can do it here. So I'm suggesting that Sonny Wasserman's campaign to reverse the decommissioning, to install the decommissioning, the original plan, and to stop the functioning of Diablo Canyon, wouldn't it be a great idea for the people of California and to follow Ro Khanna's example and say he's introducing a bill to have a genuine public utility rather than hedge funds managers making money off of all of us? What do you think of that?
Well, Roger, let's kick it to you here in Michigan. What do you think will happen if and I agree with you 100% on that, to talk about and we had the experience, by the way, in Sacramento. Sacramento, public owned, the Rancho Seco reactor. They had a referendum and they voted to shut it down, and it shut down. Amazing. The next day, they shut it after the referendum. That's public ownership. Roger, let's assume that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission gives them a green light at Palisades. What's the real world financial implications given the information that you now have?
Well, the first thing is that the NRC is in a unique position because this has never happened to them before. You understand in the real world situation of the other three exemptions they got. Remember, they've already gotten exemptions during the government shutdown for three things: the emergency plan. They got an exemption also for the the fire protection, and then they also got a big exemption for the welding work that they were in the middle of for the resleeving of the tubes. But this is completely different. No one, first of all, has ever done this kind of work without meeting the American Society of Mechanical Engineers standards. It's never happened. Okay, that's just boilerplate. And second of all, in every case when they do this kind of work, they have to submit a plan and get approval before they start. So they did this in a way that, number one, didn't comply with the regulatory standards, which makes common sense because that's why they're there. We've seen from Davis-Besse what happens when it goes wrong. So that's a worry. And more to the point, they did this work in a way that cannot be repaired. They can't go in and fix it. They can't take it apart. Once the welding work is done, they're stuck. So now the NRC knows that not only did they do it wrong, but they can't fix it. So that puts them in a very, very difficult position, because if they go ahead and not demand that a new reactor pressure head vessel is installed and it leaks, that would be devastating in every way possible to the future of the nuclear industry, including Holtec and its own plan to do SMRs on this site, plus the Trump plan and so on and so forth. So it could backfire in terms of reputational damage and the kind of coverage that we're seeing right now in Minneapolis. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about wall-to-wall coverage of a situation that may or may not actually affect public health. But in terms of reputational damage, it's almost incalculable. So the whole industry, all these startups that we're talking about, all the data centers that are going to supply these, that are going to, that supposedly are going to get supplied by nuclear power. They're putting all the eggs in one basket. And if there's anybody in the country, Harvey, who gets this, it's you, because you're the one who's been saying all along, if you put all your eggs in the nuclear basket and you fry alternate energy, clean energy, what are they going to power these data centers with? And that's the argument why they're expediting this. Oh, we got all these data centers. We needed all this power. So it's going to hurt them two ways. Number one, a lot of people are going to lose the money who sunk, including the Trumps who sunk money in this. And two, they're not going to have the power sources because they gutted clean energy to put all this money into nuclear power. So it could affect the economy. It could affect the investment community. It could definitely affect existing reactors. They'd just be hell to pay because the publicity is going to be nonstop. And this time they're not going to get away with it because they've focused so much energy on nuclear power. The investment community is going nuts. You just heard that Holtec is looking at possibly reaping $10 billion on an IPO that they've had to delay because they forgot to ask the NRC for permission to do this reworking of the welding. And they did it because for 20 years they've been putting off this work at Consumers Energy and Energy. So for 20 years they've been delaying it. So obviously they needed a new reactor head pressure vessel. They just chose to put a Band-Aid on it and hope that it works. I don't think the NRC is going to be real excited about approving this. And if they do, they know the Trump-appointed NRC is going to be really vulnerable and be called on the carpet for it.
Well, I think that your article that you're going to write about this will have more power in the investment community than any rubber stamp from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
The reason we're here today, Harvey, is that the investment community gave up on light water reactors because they saw the damage it did in Georgia, where rates went up. It was double the cost, billions of dollars over. It was very late. Why would they want to sink more money into a losing that takes 15 to 20 years?
Yeah. Well, actually, more to the point of Vogtle is VC Summer in
Right.
in South
Yeah.
Carolina, where they dumped in $9 billion for
Right.
a hole in the ground. I mean, it's mind-boggling. But I don't see how the investment. I don't care in a certain sense. I don't care what the NRC does. I don't see how the investment community could ever buy into this.
Never.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears, or maybe to Jamie Dimon's. Michelle Anonymous, and then Maya Reeson. Go ahead, Michelle. We still have 74 people with us, for God's sakes. We are going to stop at 4:20, so that gives us 17 minutes. Go ahead.
We had Paul Johnson had his hand raised first, and he.
Where is he? I don't see him. There he is.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead, Paul Johnson, please.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very unhappy about this. They're trying to restart this. It doesn't make any sense, except the guys running the company think they're going to make a lot of money. So they're getting all these government grants and subsidies, and it sounds like a big grift to me. I mean, are they really intending to restart this, or is it just a scam to do an IPO to get a wad of cash? And why would you put any money in old technology that when there's so much new stuff that's better and more reliable and safer? It doesn't make sense, except these idiots think they're going to make money, and we have to do something to call them out and stop them. And what can we do to put an end to this madness? Because
Roger's going to be writing all night about this. What do you think, Roger? Why are they doing this?
Well, Paul, I want to tell you something. I saw my local state representative who voted unanimously with the Republicans and Democrats to give $300 million to this project. And I've spoken to him about it. We've met about it, and I called him about it. And guess what happened? Nothing. And the reason is that they bought off both sides. They are equal opportunity contributors to both campaigns. And this is the beauty of what nuclear power has managed to do. They have, since 1954, they have told the public that nuclear power will be too cheap, too cheap to monitor. In other words, they've lied from day one about this technology, and we've seen in Chernobyl and more recent Zaporizhzhia and in 3 Mile Island and in Fukushima what this has cost us. Okay, and there's absolutely no question that they have bought off the Democrats and the Republicans from day one. And remember, we're here tonight because of two people, Gretchen Whitmer, my governor, and her predecessor. Okay. She was the one, the former governor is the one who carried the torch and convinced Biden to put all this money into it. And now Trump has doubled down. So we've got Gretchen Whitmer and Donald Trump on the same side on this. Okay. They're cheerleading each other. I bet when
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, and when they restart, and Jennifer Granholm, who's the one that carried the torch into Biden's office to get all this money for Holtec, these two governors were the ones who did it. They weren't Republicans. Now Trump has doubled down on it, and believe me, the day they open this plant, Trump is going to be there with Whitmer. Count on it. You'll see it happening. Why did this happen? Because they're getting a lot of money, and the latest example is that Trump himself is 50% owner of a new nuclear power company that's going to do SMRs built by companies like Holtec. Okay, he's already got half the money's coming from Truth Social. Okay, so this is a power play in the investment community where they're literally getting money from both sides, and I can't even get my own state legislature who lives in my neighborhood to answer my phone calls.
Unbelievable. Well, it's mind-boggling. And of course, Gavin Newsom is right in the middle of it, though. Although you're glad to know that as part of the keeping Diablo open, they negotiated a $1.4 billion bailout. Trump is now trying to stiff California.
Yep,
$400 million. I love that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, you understand that Granholm sees this as a huge cash cow. Free federal money. This was, and that's why she did it, to help her old state. And Whitmer was happy to take the money. They're getting direct money. It isn't even political money. They're getting, it's money going directly into the state, creating all these jobs. And they have more than 1,000 temporary workers. So that's a payroll that they love. It's free money.
Unreal. It's unreal. Michelle Anonymous, was that you? We got
I wanted to mention about because I took a physical geography class
I'm an older non-traditional student. I took in Las Vegas at UNLV, and I took a physical geography class some years back there, and the professors taught us that Yucca Mountain is made of volcanic rock, and it's just porous and can leak real easily, so it's not a safe storage. Plus, underneath are two major aquifers, and one spreads all the way into Southern California and I think several different states. And of course, if radioactive waste got into the water, it would spread the radioactivity through all the water under all these states. So
let me just confirm what
good idea.
Let me confirm what your professor told you, because I was in Yucca Mountain, and when you walk through Yucca Mountain and you look up, you can actually see the earthquake faults. They're visible in Yucca Mountain. And then there's what's called perched water, which means that they're like mini lakes on the top of the mountain. So if there's an earthquake, the water will come pouring down, and if there's radioactive waste in there, it'll turn the steam and blow the place up. Small details. So, but you were taught correctly, and you didn't miss much by not going through it. Mila and then Connie.
That's absolutely right about Yucca Mountain, and it's interesting because a few years ago, a couple of people, advocates for nuclear, claiming that the only reason that Yucca Mountain has not been opened was because of political pressure. The problem with the water, which is huge. And then we have to also consider the fact that we would have something like a mobile effect going on, putting high radioactive waste on highways and byways and railroads and who's what. And it's just extraordinary. I've also heard, and I don't know if this is true, you say that it's volcanic rock, and I have heard the claim that in geological that Yucca could possibly become active again.
Yes, there has been that claim.
Yeah.
Right. So I think Yucca Mountain would make a great casino, but so far nobody's took me up on it.
And I just wanted to push back a little bit. I think that Arnie's point was well taken, that there was an amazing gift from a very wealthy individual in the fight to shut down, and that was very important.
Right.
But the organizing that in the local community was phenomenal. And I think that we don't necessarily have to just super wealthy stop Palace, that it's still possible to shut Palace with people.
I think you're right, and I think Roger is about to light the torch here. So let's see if that works. And of course, Kevin Camps has been up there. It's great. Roger, I'm sure you got a lot of great people you're working with. Connie Klein, who's in Michigan. Let's get you unmuted, then we'll go to Tatanka, and then we're pretty much done. Go ahead, Connie.
That's Ohio, not Michigan.
I'm sorry, you're in Cleveland.
Yeah, right, in the Cleveland area. I'm not sure that I have this most recent situation. I followed the Palisades situation closely. I'm not sure if I understand this latest issue with the reactor vessel head. So I'm wondering if there are accession numbers. I know you briefly showed a slide with a letter, which I presume was from Holtec to the NRC.
It's in the notes. It's in the notes. Do you have access to the chat?
Yes.
It's in the chat.
Somebody put it in.
And I do want to mention,
I'll send it again.
Before we lose track of this, there was a major uproar over this issue in France because all the tubing that goes through the vessel heads into the reactors to guide down the control rods in France was suspect. And there was a tremendous uproar because France, made a big deal of standardizing the reactors. But when you have a problem like that, every reactor has it. And it was a big deal in France. Go ahead, Connie. Sorry.
Well, okay. There's so much in the chat.
I just sent it to you. It's here right now. Okay. It's an 83-page document. I gave you the link.
And Connie has been a great stalwart on the Perry and Davis-Besse event. So thank you for that, Connie.
Yeah, they're the latest thing with Perry. Well, with all three of the reactors that Vistra owns, they're uprating them. There's a deal with Meta to uprate all three reactors. I'm trying to get as much information on this as I can, and there's very little for the purpose of providing power for data centers in Ohio.
Okay. Well, it always kills me because northern Ohio should be 100% wind powered. The north coast of Ohio, 50 miles down from the lake, is ideal for wind. And I was actually in that region for a year trying to sell windmills, and every farmer that I went to wanted one.
Yeah.
And then the state legislature came in and killed it. Maybe if Amy Adams becomes governor, we can reverse the setback clause and get wind industry going in
Yeah.
northern Ohio. That
Well,
would be
there's a case right now in the Ohio Supreme Court regarding solar in particular, because they killed both wind and solar. So we'll see what happens with that one.
okay. Very good. Thank you, Connie. Always great to hear from you. Tatanka Bricka, anybody else want to jump in? We're going to sign off in 6 minutes. Still got 68 people with us. Really great to have you all. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Tatanka.
Yeah. So as we've heard here, massive corruption. The original proposal of the entire nuclear industry was based on a big lie, too cheap to meter, and it's safe. Okay. So they doubled down on the big lie. And the good news is that, as Milet said, and as Roger implied, when you have something like that, the public opinion here in the state of California is bipartisan. People want distributed energy. They want rooftop solar. They want safe energy. They see through this. They're just not organized. Just imagine if this is a super saturated solution and it just takes a movement. I mean, right? But who knows? If we turn this thing around in California and actually go back to decommissioning here, the word will be that you can't put it on the consumers, all this bad news, and jack up everybody's rates. And bad news for the industry anywhere is bad news everywhere. We can actually turn this thing around. I mean, it's just extraordinary that you could probably get 75% of the people to support the idea of going back to the decommissioning and go to solar and battery technology, which is saving us already, and that would also speed across the country. So we're in a situation where what's going on with Holtec can backfire on that end, and what Gavin Newsom has tried to do here can backfire on this end, and we can attack the corruption, which is corporate. It's corporate capture of the government, and it becomes very good for people, and we can be empowered by this if we think of it that way.
Well, Roger Rappaport, we can give you the last word very quickly. Go through Mila Reason and Paul Gunter, and then we'll get to you, Roger, and we'll rock and roll. Go ahead, Paul, Mila.
Oh, I'll defer to Paul Gunter.
Paul, go ahead, please. Paul Gunter.
Well, I just wanted to mention, Harvey, when you said about the VC Summer plant being a $9 billion disaster. That project, along with the over cost of building the Vogtle plants, it bankrupted Westinghouse, which then went into bankruptcy court. And now Westinghouse Electric is owned by Brookfield and Cameco. Their nuclear mining interests. Well, the South Carolina, just the utility there has broke a deal with those two to restart the construction of VC Summer. So, the restart of aging plants is just realize this is also now coupling up with a restart of suspended construction. And that's sort of the momentum that we have, we're witnessing right now.
Well, these guys are absolutely desperate to avoid renewable energy. Everything they can do to avoid wind power and solar and geothermal and batteries, they are doing. And I think it's going to fail. I mean, the most important study I've seen of the restart of nuclear power was done by the Cato Institute, which is hardcore right-wing free market, and they said forget about it. So these guys, as I say, they'll do anything to avoid renewables, and here we are. Roger Rappaport, you're about to write the obituary tonight. You want to wrap us up?
Well, it's interesting that you make this point because, believe it or not, The source of this information, the reason that we're having this conversation tonight, is someone who's been involved in the nuclear industry for quite a long time. And I would put it this way. He has made it very clear, and this is somebody who knows what he's talking about, and he's not alone. When he talks to nuclear power executives all over the country, they all say the same thing. What the hell is going on at Palisades? They're scared to death that this, that this plant is going to crater all of their effort. And I want to just leave with this one point. In my local newspaper, the Motley Fool, has advised people that they are smart to get in right now with guess who? Holtec and all the other companies that are promoting these SMRs. Get in now because it's cheap. And I have to say that if the person who wrote that column wasn't under the advisement of one of these nuclear companies, I'd be terribly surprised. They have the best public relations machinery in the world, and they have all the money in the world, and they bought off my governor and her predecessor and my entire state legislature, including my Democratic state representative who lives down the street from me, who won't return my phone calls. He's a nice guy.
Well,
And the point is, money talks.
No, it swears. Remember Bob Dylan? Money doesn't talk, it swears. And I think these industry guys, they all ate the brown acid. I'm glad that we had Ro Khanna on with us because he does have a history of understanding this. And I think we're on the brink of winning, frankly. I just thought Palisades is so crazy, as you're about to point out, Roger, that I don't think they can go there. Let's find out. Everybody, this has been a historic conversation. We're at 4:21 California time. Time to go out and toke up. Still 66 people with us. This has been fabulous. Roger, Paul,
thank you.
Carl, thank you. Ray, let's join.
Thanks, Carl.
Joining us, smile, everybody. No nukes, everybody. We will see you next week in Solartopia. Take care.
Miley, you had one more thing, didn't you? Did you miss your last comment?
Oh, I was just going to encourage people to help us spread the word by sharing the video that will be on YouTube or is on YouTube about this very important. So if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do it. And is that, Steve, is that the name of the channel is Green Grassroots? I don't have it in front of me.
What's it called?
Election Protection.
What's it called?
Yep. Green Grassroots Election Protection.
Is our YouTube
I will,
channel?
so it starts with Solartopia with the trademark Grassroots Election Protection.
All right,
Solartopia,
There it is.
Grassroots Election Protection. I'll copy it and paste it in the room.
Can you paste it in now? Yeah.
Well, I'll just show you the page. How's that?
Yeah, please help us get the word out.
I see it. Okay, I got it.
There.
Got it.
You can see it right here.
Right. Thank you.
And we're gonna transcribe this and send it around, Roger. And
thank you.
Roger, I want to have you again. I want to get Peter Bradford and
Great.
Greg Yasko on. Okay. All right, you guys. No nukes, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Go for your draft tomorrow, Roger.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And remember, go blue.